a denim shirt and white lace. This is about as outdoorsy as I get. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. I'm continuing my masculine feminine energies film breakdown series with the Misfits. Yes, we're breaking down another Marilyn Monroe film. I have quite a few on my channel because, well, she's a personal favorite of mine and a lot of other people's. So before we get started, if you're not familiar with what I mean by masculine and feminine energies, I have a lot of videos on this topic, but in short, masculine and feminine energies are energies that live within all of us. We all contain both energies, but we all have a core energy that is sort of the energy we're most ourselves in, and that may or may not link up with our gender. It very often does. We can be in wounded or healed versions of either of these energies, and both of these energies have archetypes that exist within all of us, and we can tap into any of these archetypes whenever we need to. So a breakdown of the Misfits was actually requested, I think, a few times in the time that I've been asking people for film requests. And at first I wasn't super excited about it, to be honest, because I personally like Marilyn in more glam roles. Not that she's not glam in this film, but it's just a little bit of a different role for her. It was written for her by Arthur Miller, her husband at the time, so she could play a more dramatic role. But after rewatching this movie from the perspective of masculine and feminine energies, I got so excited because there is so much good stuff in this movie. I mean, first of all, Marilyn is the epitome of feminine energy in this film. And there's 3 male leads in the film that show really great examples of different types and flavors of masculine energy. So let's get into this film. In the Misfits, Marilyn plays Rosalind. Rosalind is a former nightclub dancer. She goes through a divorce at the beginning of the film, and it's really interesting. There's a line in it. There's so many great lines in this movie, which obviously goes to show what a great writer Arthur Miller was. She has a line at the beginning of the movie when she's talking about her reason for divorce. Can I say he wasn't there? You could touch him, but he just wasn't there. And I think what that symbolizes for the feminine energy, in this case we'll talk about feminine cord beings, for the feminine, and she is such a feminine character, and we're gonna get into that in a minute. For the feminine, her greatest desire from the masculine is his presence, is him being present with her, is him being focused on her, because the masculine needs to be fully focused on one thing at a time. He's not a multitasker like feminine energy tends to be. The masculine energy in all of us, but in particular in masculine cord beings, his focus needs to be on one thing at a time. And the feminine knows that, so the feminine really truly values when that presence is on her. So I think that line is such a great example of the fact that if the feminine doesn't feel seen, if she doesn't feel the masculine's presence, she can't connect to him. Like there's a disconnect, and usually that's when things dissolve, because she's not feeling like she's getting what she fully needs from him. Rosalind is so full of life, and they allude to that in so many times in this film, how she's connected to life, she's connected to the universe. She breaks into dance, her heart is open, she's very loving and nurturing. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of the details of her feminine energy and how it interacts with the masculine energy in this film when I talk about the masculine characters. But she is just, she's so full of life, she's exuberant. They refer to her a few times as being sort of like innocent, like she's just been born, or very like childlike in that innocence. And she's not necessarily childlike in that sense, it's just that she's so open and so loving. Like her heart is so open, and it's something that it's very valued by masculine energy. But because so few women actually allow themselves to embody that, it's not something that is seen in our culture as often. Women are taught to be more guarded. Even back then when this movie took place in the 60s, but especially now, women are, they're taught to be more guarded. They're not like open-hearted to life. Rosalind is just so open and connected to life. And she feels everything, she expresses everything. She's very reactive to things in her body, like you can feel it in her body. She feels other people's feelings in her body, which honestly, that can be really scary, and it can be a lot for people to handle. So when you are naturally like that, and I think a lot of people, we label it as being an empath, but it's actually very much feminine energy. The feminine feels everything. It feels things. It is the energy of emotions and of feeling in the body, of being in the body and not being in your head. And that's not, it's not something that we're encouraged, anyone really is encouraged to be in our society. So when someone is like that, it just is so magnetic, and it's almost like people are in awe of it because it's just like, whoa, like I don't get this, right? So Rosalind ends up connecting with, well, technically two guys, one who is a cowboy, one who's a pilot, and the other one who is kind of a lost soul. And she connects to these guys throughout the film. They all really fall in love with her, and they all have very different motives and different connections for their relationship with her. So let's start with Perce, who's played by Montgomery Clift, and he has a bit of a smaller role in this film than the other two, so we're gonna start with him. Perce is someone who they actually kind of meet up with on the way to a rodeo. They're kind of looking for another guy to help them out with a adventure that they're going on. They find him, he needs an entrance fee to get into a rodeo to try to make some money, and they kind of like team up with him. The thing about Perce that we find out is that he's sort of new to being a wandering soul. He had a really good family, he had a really good like a farm ranch at home that he came from, and he was helping his father run it, and he intended to inherit this from his father and then take this on and live on the family legacy. But we find out his father passed away, and his mother remarried pretty quickly. His stepfather basically stepped in and took over his father's ranch, and Perce basically got left out, and they were gonna let him work there, but it wasn't gonna be his. He's obviously very hurt by that. So you can kind of tell that Perce has a pretty serious mother wound in this movie, which, you know, obviously it's pretty new to him and he's still working through it. And he has a very childlike way about him as well, which does tend to come across more like feminine energy, right? He's a little bit more flowy with life. He's hurt and he has some pain, but he's a little bit more go with life. Go with the flow, just see where the world takes him. And he's obviously got a lot of wounding around his family situation. So he's really attracted to Rosalind, I believe, because of her nurturing quality, her mother energy, which is one of the feminine archetypes. I have a lot of videos about more details about the feminine archetypes. If you want to look those up, I'll link them to this video. It's the mother energy and her archetype and the feminine archetype that's that nurturing. She feels a need to care for him. And if you notice, when he is in the rodeo, when he's getting ready to ride in the rodeo for the first time, he looks up in the stands and realizes that Rosalind is there watching. It's got a very, like, a little boy wanting his mother's approval kind of a thing. You know, she's this warm energy.
You don't have to put that in there.
I'm pretty good riding bulls. I want you to watch me, Rosalind.
But why are you doing it?
I put in for it. I entered.
At one point in the film, when he's telling Rosalind his story, she's like holding his head and in a very nurturing, loving, mothering way. And like he says he loves her, and, you know, she's like, you don't even know me type of thing. It's like he's attached to her because he's feeling that nurturing, mothering energy that he's missing in his life. This is actually a very common thing. You know, we talk a lot about like daddy issues or father wounds or whatever, but like father wounds and mother wounds can affect men and women in a lot of different ways, and so actually a lot more common than we would think and that we express. It's not just like, oh, a woman's father wasn't there, so there you go. Like, there's a lot more depth to it, and the fact that he's, even as an adult, has felt so hurt by his mother, he's seeking that as a way of trying to heal himself in other women, which is why he falls for Rosalind. And Rosalind is very protective of him. Like, she doesn't want him to be in the rodeo. She's afraid he's gonna get hurt. And you can kind of see when he is in the rodeo and she's really afraid for him. There's actually a moment when she actually kind of like, she calls out the emotions in her body. It's like she can feel the pain in his pain, and it comes out of her. She's so expressive in that. And it's that desire to, like, I want to protect him and hold him and I want to keep him safe. That's her mother energy that's coming out. And I think that's why he's so drawn to her. You also notice Gay, who's Clark Gable's character, who I'll get into later. He jumps in at one point to try to save Perce when the bull is going to attack him. He has a very fathering energy. He wants to protect him as well. I mean, I think that that's the thing about Perce's character, is that he has that youthful, childlike energy to him that makes people want to protect him and keep him safe. Also, at the end, when there's kind of a lot of drama about Mustang hunting and Rosalind not wanting them to actually hunt horses. And in the end, it's interesting how Perce is very much a people pleaser. Like, he wants to do what Rosalind wants. He wants to make Rosalind happy. He wants to give Rosalind what she wants. He doesn't want to be a part of it because it's kind of like seeking her approval. It's like, I want to do whatever she wants to make her happy. It's very people pleasing, which tends to be sort of more wounded feminine energy. He's also very self-harming. I mean, he just jumps into a lot of these bull rides, these things where it's just like, it feels very self-harming to him. It's like, even when he's injured, it's like, well, I'm gonna keep doing it because, you know, that's all he really has to live for, type of thing. So I would say Perce has a lot more wounded feminine energy. He's still very endearing, which is why people want to nurture him, but Rosalind, who's so feminine, is not going to be attracted to him because he's not really standing in his masculine energy. You know, he's looking for a mother figure. He's looking to please her. He's not necessarily a bad guy. He obviously has a lot of healing that he needs to do, but a truly feminine woman is not going to be attracted to a man like that romantically, because there's not gonna be any polarity, because he's too much in this wounded feminine energy and she's so feminine that sexually they're not going to attract. So the next masculine character we have is Guido, and Guido he's a really fascinating character. He's played by Eli Wallach, and first of all, he has some of the best lines in this film, particularly when he's talking about Rosalind and her feminine energy.
Knowing things don't matter much. You got something a lot more important.
What?
You care. Whatever happens to anybody, it happens to you. You're really hooked into the whole thing, Rosalind. It's a blessing.
And he's a really interesting character, and maybe I just found him really interesting because I've known a lot of guys like him. Not with his exact story, but guys with his same energy. So Guido is very attracted to Rosalind from the beginning. He's actually the first one that meets her. And you find out that he's widowed. His wife has passed away. And when he's telling Rosalind about this, she is really, really mortified. That's actually a common theme throughout this entire film, is the concept that the masculine characters are all very comfortable with death. Death is it's something they've had to accept. It's a part of their lives that comes up throughout this entire film. Whereas the feminine can't handle death. She can't handle an ending to things.
What if he died? It would be terrible.
Honey, we all gotta go sometime, reason or no reason. Dying's as natural as living. A man who's too afraid to die is too afraid to live.
And that's actually really common in masculine-feminine dynamics, because the feminine is all about love and openness, and she can never get enough love, so she always wants more love. She always wants more life, and she wants it to keep going on, and she wants more of it. Whereas the masculine and masculine energy wants things to end. He wants stillness, he wants peace. So it's actually much more common for the masculine to be able to face death, which is one of the reasons why the masculine tends to be warriors. They tend to be hunters, they tend to be the protectors. And in this film, it's a theme that goes throughout, is the concept that the masculine is much more comfortable with death and with things ending, as far as the feminine is just always wants more. And so when Guido is explaining to Rosalind about his wife's passing, and it's very matter of fact, and you can tell that he obviously has emotion around it, but she is so uncomfortable around it. And you find out that, you know, he didn't really think she was sick, you know, had a flat tire, he didn't have a spare tire, so he didn't get her to help, and she died. And that's actually something that really gets into Rosalind, is, you know, and she even says to Gay a little bit later in the same scene, like, you would have a spare tire, wouldn't you? Like, that is sort of very symbolic of the fact that Guido couldn't keep his wife safe in Rosalind's eyes. Not to blame him for her death, but in Rosalind's eyes, Guido didn't prioritize keeping his wife safe. And safety is so, so crucial to the feminine. Feminine energy needs to feel safety in order to be able to relax into her feminine energy, which is one of the reasons why she never really gets to feel fully safe with Guido, because she knows his history. She knows that he wasn't responsible enough to, you know, have a spare tire. He didn't get his wife the help that she needed. It puts her in this very uneasy space around him. It's also interesting how she comments, like, Guido was explaining his wife and talking about how great his wife was and about how, you know, she never complained about anything. And Rosalind makes the comment about like, well, maybe that's what killed her, you know, 'cause sometimes complaining helps. When the feminine suppresses her emotions, because if somebody's not complaining, if the feminine is not, and I don't mean complaining as in like nagging or just nitpicking at things, but the feminine needs to express emotion, good emotions and bad emotions. She needs to be able to express those. She bottles them all up to keep herself small. It's going to eat away at her, and it can actually cause physical illness in the feminine. Not to say that that's what actually killed his wife, but if she felt, and you can tell in this film, Guido is not comfortable with feminine emotions. He shows that very often throughout this film. He can't handle Rosalind's emotions. He can't handle feminine emotions. But it seems like if his wife was never able to express her emotions because he couldn't handle them, that suppressing of those emotions, again, I don't know if that's what killed her. We don't really know what actually killed her in the film, but like that can kill feminine energy. It can actually make a woman suppress her feminine energy enough to actually kill off a part of her. Guido does have a serious appreciation for Rosalind's feminine energy when it's positive. He's not fully willing to accept all parts of her. Rosalind actually sort of updates and redoes Guido's home, and Guido really has a deep appreciation for how much Rosalind made his house into a home, which is very much feminine energy, is, you know, the man providing a house and the woman making it into a home. That's sort of a very, again, the man providing and the woman creating. That's a very, very essential part of the masculine feminine dynamic.
I spent 4 years in the war, did 2 tours, flew 50 missions. Every time I came back to base, I started to design this house. But somehow, I could never get it to look like my idea of it. Now it almost does. You just walk in, a stranger out of nowhere, and for the first time, it all lights up. And I'm sure you know why, too.
Why?
Because you have the gift for life, Rosalind. The rest of us, we're just looking for a place to hide and watch it all go by.
Amen.
Here's to your life, Rosalind. I hope it goes on forever.
It doesn't have to be a house and home situation, but it's that the masculine providing and then the woman taking that and creating. I believe that that's what they mean by happy wife, happy life. The man is providing what the woman needs in order to create a happy life for the both of them. That's what I read that statement into being. Other people argue with that, teach their own. But Guido does have this deep appreciation. He appreciates her feminine energy. He expresses that. Problem is, Rosalind, again, she doesn't feel safe with him for one, and he can't handle too much of her feminine emotions. And there's also conditions, and that's something that actually comes out at one point when she doesn't want them to go Mustang hunting. She doesn't want the horses to get killed, and she gets really emotional about it. And Guido actually tells her that, well, he'll stop it if she'll agree to be with him, or give him a chance, basically.
You want me to stop it?
You would?
You're through with Gay now, right? Well, tell me. He doesn't know what you're all about. He'll never know. Tell me, Rosalind. I've been waiting. I'm going out of my mind with waiting. Come back with me. Give me a week, 2 weeks. Let me show you what I am. Tell me, Rosalind. Give me a reason and I'll stop it. There'll be hell to pay, but you give me a reason, I'll do it.
A reason? You, a sensitive fellow, so sad for his wife, crying to me about the bombs you dropped and the people you killed. You have to get something to be human? You never felt anything for anybody in your life. All you know is the sad words. You could blow up the world, and all you would feel is sorry for yourself.
And that condition on things, it's one, he's like, he wants to please her. It's that need to please her, but there's a condition on that. It's like, well, I'll do this for you if you're willing to do this for me. And that kind of energy, that like conditional love, is very unappealing. It's actually unappealing for most people, let's be serious. Most people don't want conditions put on their love. Not to say that sometimes there needs to be conditions on love, but that conditional love can be really off-putting, and that is what really turns her off to him, I think, is, you know, there's the lack of safety. And then towards the end of the film, when she does like really fully express her emotions, like you can tell all of his bitterness and anger towards women comes out. This kind of thing where it's like, well, yeah, you need them, but
She's crazy. They're all crazy. You try not to believe it because you need them. She's crazy. You struggle, you build, you try. You turn yourself inside out for them. But it's never enough. So they put the spurs to you. I know, I got the marks. I know this racket. I just forgot what I knew for a little while.
I'm hitting you! You're 3 dead men!
it's almost like he resents, and I see this a lot, and I've seen this happen a lot. I've seen this in my lifetime. I see this a lot in different areas of life where men, and I'm going to say this about men, I'm not saying women are perfect, but I'm just going to say this about men. There's a lot of men out there. They're very sexually attracted to women, but they resent the fact that they have this attraction that they perceive is a power that women have over them. So they end up deeply resenting women for having this so-called power over them. And it ends up coming out a lot in bitterness. That's where a lot of, again, these conditional situations go, where it's like, well, I'll do for you if you do for me. And that's actually one of the reasons why so many women get shut down to being open to receive things from men, even so much as compliments or a kind gesture. Women shut that down because there have been so many men, I'm not saying all men, but there have been so many men who have put conditions on that as a way to control the feminine, because they resent the feminine for this perceived power that the feminine has over them. And you see that with Guido's character, and that's one of the reasons why Rosalind was really never going to be able to fully open up to Guido in that way. As much as he did have an appreciation for a lot of her feminine qualities, he couldn't accept all of her, and he had to put conditions on that because he needed to control her. And she didn't want to be controlled. She wanted her feminine to be able to be free. Now let's look at Gay, played by Clark Gable. I know a lot of people are going to say that's a kind of an odd name. It's short for Gaylord, and it was a more common name back in the day. Gay is such a masculine character. He's a cowboy. He's a free spirit. He wants freedom. The masculine longs for freedom. He wants to be free to roam. He's also very comfortable with death. He's very protecting. He's got that energy. And you can tell that, especially in the beginning when we first meet Gay, you find out there's a lot of women that kind of throw themselves at him. And he makes a reference at one point when he's talking to Rosalind about how there's so many women that kind of come from these big cities and different places, and they want to meet a cowboy. You know, they want to meet a cowboy, and then they think that cowboys are dumb, so they think that they can kind of, you know, they can be a different person around these cowboys and kind of like let loose and express themselves, but it's all fake and phony and it's not real. Which is one of the reasons why Gay is so enamored with Rosalind, is because she's so real and true, and she is who she is. You know, she expresses herself. And it's interesting because Gay makes a move on Rosalind, and she's like, I'm not interested in you in that way. And he's like, well, you never know, you might be.
I don't feel that way about you, Gay.
Well, don't get discouraged, girl. You might.
It's not that like I need to please you. It's just like, well, you know, you might be, you might change your mind. And she does. You know, he uses humor. He never stops her. In fact, there's a really great scene. Gay asks Rosalind if she wants to dance, and they're dancing together. But then Guido wants the attention, so he wants to show off his dance moves. He's not connecting to Rosalind. It's not about Rosalind and being connected to her. It's about, I want to show off.
Hey, you want to put on a show.
And it's interesting because they have a conversation where Rosalind asks him about, you know, teaching his wife to dance. And, you know, he's like, well, no, she wasn't graceful. And she was like, well, you know, if you loved her, you could have taught her anything.
Didn't your wife dance?
Not like you. She had no gracefulness.
Why didn't you teach her to be graceful?
You can't learn that.
How do you know? I mean, How do you know? You see, she died and she didn't know how you can dance. To a certain extent, maybe we're strangers.
I don't feel like discussing my wife.
Oh, don't be mad. I only meant that if you loved her, you could have taught her anything.
He was distant and he was showy, and it was about him, and it was about look at this show. Whereas when she danced with Gay, it was more of a connection to the two of them. And then she went outside and she started sort of dancing outside and just dancing around a tree, and like Guido wants to go to her and Gay is like, no, 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 let her go. You know, like let her do her, like let her roam free. Understands that the feminine needs to roam free, that she needs to be free to express her emotions and she needs to let it free. Gay makes her breakfast, and it's actually really interesting how she dives in like she's so excited to eat and she loves what she's eating, and like he makes a comment that like, well, you really go all in even the way you eat, you know what I mean? It's like most women just pick, you know, it's like, it's that idea of masculine, like true masculine men love when women are just enjoying life, whether it be enjoying food or enjoying dancing and movement, enjoying sexual interactions. The masculine loves to see the feminine just fully enjoying life. It's so attractive to them. He is very nurturing. He does have a fathering energy. Rosalind obviously has a lot of bitterness for her father not being around. It's not overly, it's not obvious that she's looking for a father figure in Gay, but let's be serious, it probably is an aspect to that, because he is very manly and he's very protective. It's interesting too how, you know, when she realizes that they are going to go Mustang hunting and they're actually going to potentially kill the wild horses, and that's actually a big theme throughout the whole thing. Gay is very much like, hey, death is a part of life, whereas the feminine really has a lot of trouble dealing with that. When he's trying to console her and comfort her, he actually has a really great scene where he talks about he's just trying to do what is natural, and if somebody else exploits it, if somebody else makes it into something that it's not, he can't control that. He just has to be himself, and he compares it to her dancing in nightclubs. It's a really great scene about the idea that, like, you know, she just wanted to dance, and he understands that she just wanted to dance, but there were men out there that made it into something that it wasn't.
Maybe we're all alike, including you. We start out doing something, meaning no harm, something that's naturally in us to do. But somewhere along the line, it gets changed around into something bad. Like dancing in a nightclub. You started out just wanting to dance, didn't you? But little by little, it turns out that people ain't interested in how good you danced it. They're gawking at you with something entirely different in their minds. And they turn us sour, don't they? I gotta look down my nose at you, too. Showing yourself off in a nightclub for so much a night. But I took my hat off to you, because I know the difference. This is how I dance, Rosalind. And if they make something else out of it, well, I can't run the world any more than you could.
You took your hat off to me.
The moment that she realizes that he sees in her what she really is, like, he sees that life in her, that joy in her, the fact that dancing gives her joy, the fact that she's comfortable being in joy and pleasure around him, and he's not going to make it into something like sick, and he's not going to make it into something where he's exploiting her. That's when she's able to relax around him. That's when she's able to really get drawn into him. That's actually a big theme, and I actually have a lot of thoughts on that topic, and I think I'm going to do a whole video about that, particularly with me and my Instagram journey. So if you guys want to see that video, thumbs up, let me know. But yeah, and there's also a really great scene when she throws a big temper tantrum. She does not want them to be hunting the horses, and at one point Gay actually is in this big, like, fight scene, really, where he's trying to tame this wild horse, and it's this big fight and whatever, and he does actually, like, get the wild horse, and then he lets him go. And they're like, why did you let him go? And he's like, I wanted it to be my decision.
What are are you doing? What in the hell you catch him for?
Don't want nobody making up my mind for me, that's all.
He gives Rosalind what she wants, but only because he's made the decision to. It's not to please her. He needs to prove that he's capable of making the decision for himself, which is actually a big point of contention a lot of times with the masculine and the feminine, is that the feminine will try to demand that the masculine do something and the masculine's like, no, I don't want to do it. He needs it to be his choice. It's a thing in the masculine brain. So he wasn't people pleasing. It wasn't like Perce, who was just sort of like, he wanted her approval, so it was like, okay, I'll do whatever you want so that you'll give me love. It wasn't like Guido, who was like, I'll give you what you want, but there's a condition on it. You got to give me something too. Gay was like, okay, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna make the decision. And then at the end, he realizes that her way is more open to love, and he actually gives her what she wants out of love, not out of necessity, not out of a need for anything. In fact, he's quite upset with her for doing this. He knows that that is in the highest good of love and of connecting to her. So it's not in a people-pleasing way, and it's not in a conditional way. It's on his terms. He's such an example of like a masculine character. Oh, this film has so many juicy scenes, so many great lines. Like, it is just, when it comes to masculine and feminine dynamics, it's so good. And it's kind of, I mean, it's totally different as far as the style and energy of the film, but it reminds me a little bit of How to Marry a Millionaire, which is my first film breakdown, in the sense that in How to Marry a Millionaire there were 3 female characters showing sort of different flavors and stages of feminine energy, whereas in this film you have like 3 male characters showing like different flavors and different stages of masculine energy. And Marilyn is such a feminine character in this. I mean, she's feminine in most of her films, but in this film, it's so much more natural. It's more raw. It's like a more raw femininity. It's not the polished version of femininity, which, don't get me wrong, I love the polished glamour aspect of femininity. Totally, 100%. But this is more like raw, real, like divine feminine energy that's coming out of her. So if you want a film that really shows an example of real embodied divine feminine energy, I highly recommend this film. I actually do recommend that even if you've seen this movie before, because I'd seen it before, and watching it through fresh eyes just like opened up the whole film for me. So after you watch this video, I highly recommend that you go watch The Misfits. I think it's actually available for free on Amazon Prime right now, if you have that. So, and I'm sure you could find it in other places. So yeah, that was my breakdown of this film. It was so good. Such great masculine and feminine dynamics in here. If you have any other films you would like me to break down, any other recommendations, let me know and leave a comment in the comment section below. I love to hear from you. I love your suggestions. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and be sure you subscribe to my channel. If you would like to connect to your divine feminine energy, I have an online course that is perfect for that, especially if you're a beginner to it. The details will be in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.